You think it's a game? You think it's a game? Y'all gon' make me lose my mind. Hey, yo, what's my name? Y'all gon' make me go all out. DMX. Y'all gon' make me act a fool. Hey, yo, what's my name? Y'all gon' make me lose my cool.
I tried so hard.
What you really want? What you really want?
But it doesn't even matter. Come on. I tried so hard.
What you really want?
It doesn't even matter. It doesn't even matter. Come on.
Boy, give me a sign. Dog, I meet bitches, the street bitches, slash. Cocoa puff, sweet bitches, make you wanna eat this. Not me.
I tried so
I fuck with these hoes from a distance. The instant they start to catch feelings, I start to. What is it you want from a nigga? I gave you, you gave me. I played you, you played me.
and got so far. But in the end, it doesn't even matter. I had to lose it all. But in the
Welcome everybody to the Showcase Pod. I am Don Vega, always joined by the boss Chris Blackheart. Blackheart, another one. This is number 10.
I'm not even counting.
You're not counting.
I'm not counting.
Jesus Christ. So today, on the Showcase Pod, we got a very special guest, the former SPW heavyweight champion, the S.O.G. Ronnie Ribs is joining us today. Do we have him on the feed? Ronnie.
Hey.
How the hell are you, brother?
Vega. Man, it's great to hear from you guys. First and foremost, let me say congratulations, Don, on the Hall of Fame induction. I haven't spoken to you since. Just wanted to say that, and well-deserved.
Thank you, man.
20 years of busting your ass, man. So congratulations.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. Blackheart.
Ironically, Ronnie was one of the first people that reached out to us and said, hey, I want to be on. Whenever you want, I want to be on. He's one of the guys that he liked the rawness, the openness, and the truth, which is ironic because that's a lot of things, feedback I'm getting is that people won't come on because they don't want the honesty, they don't want the rawness, and they can't handle the truth.
Well, they don't want the heat either.
Well, no, and which this is an open forum for everybody and anybody to tell their story, tell the truth, or their version of the truth. If it's been suppressed for years, hasn't been told, or need clarification.
Well, speaking of telling the story today, like we mentioned, we have the S.O.G. Ronnie Ribs. Ronnie, if we could go back to little Ronnie, how did you get hooked with the bug of pro wrestling?
The bug of pro wrestling, I got to credit my great uncle Jimmy Watts. Every Saturday morning, it was peanut butter and saltine crackers and watching, WWF superstars back then. First, and I think me and Romano actually share this. I remember him saying it. The first memories really was the Hogan Andre WrestleMania 3 build-up. Ventura, you get your guy here next week, and I'll bring him the Giant. And damn, that was such a great build, and it had me hooked from then on.
Yeah, that was a very good one.
For sure. My dad wasn't much of a wrestling fan until I became one.
Okay, all right. So, you got hooked with the Andre Hogan feud and the build-up that was leading to WrestleMania 3. Did you know back then, that somehow, some way you were going to be a part of this when you fell in love with wrestling? Is this something you always wanted to do?
No. Actually, it was something I liked. If you listen to the stories from my older sisters and my mom, I'd run around in my underwear doing the honky-tonk, man, shake, rattle, and roll, dropping my sister on her head with a DDT like Jake Roberts. I always loved it, man. I got in trouble for jumping off of everything, and I had the chance to actually tell Jimmy Snuka that too, because it was always the two hands up, leaping off of everything in sight. I loved it, but I had no idea I would ever go down this road. I love the showmanship, the larger than life. And, guys our size, like back then, we would have been the little tiny fellas,
Yeah.
It was a land of giants. And I never imagined I would end up doing that, man. I wanted to catch for the Boston Red Sox.
Oh, okay. So you were into baseball. That was one of your passions?
My first love. Yep. I was okay at it. I did really well in high school and travel ball and all the way up till college and the Army. And then after I got out of the Army, I played at CCRI too. So
Okay, all right. You see, that's a side of a story that a lot of people watching and listening probably don't know. I didn't know. This is, this is good.
Well, why not go into that? Did you?
yeah,
You
that
grew
was
up
my
over
first
not
love.
what? In Newport area, is that correct? Newport, Rhode Island. Is that where you grew up?
What's that?
Did you grow up
couldn't hear part of
in the Newport, Rhode Island area?
I did. I grew up in Newport, a little bit in Middletown too, but always on the island. Actually, one of my best friends for a while growing up, one of the places we lived was a guy named Nick Nally, who was the little brother of one Derek Nally, who later, Reverend Redemption,
Reverend
rest
Redemption,
easy,
yes.
my big friend. And I actually ended up becoming a lot closer with him. And, I'd ask him every now and then about Nick and stuff. And it was a good tie into the island for sure.
Okay, so you mentioned about baseball being your passion and always keeping still. I could imagine you were still a fan of wrestling, watching at that point.
Oh yes, absolutely. Every Monday night was spent with the TV changer, channel 33 and 34,
Okay.
USA and TNT. Bip, 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 bip. Every commercial break.
So before we get into wrestling, you mentioned the military, the Army. How does Ronnie Ribb join the military and goes into service?
Well, here's some rawness for you. Ronnie Ribbs has a condition where he has a habit of fucking up his own shit. That's the real truth. That's the raw truth. I have fucked myself up more ways than I care to remember. And one of them was a drunken brawl at Western New England College on campus. Mm-hmm. And part of that was me hitting a police officer. And rather than copping out and then doing whatever I had to do, I threw myself at the mercy of the judge and told him I'd already enlisted in the Army and was hoping everything would work out for me in that realm. Mm-hmm. And the judge agreed, and I was off to Fort Benning in August of 2000.
Okay.
University of Fort Benning.
There you go. So, was it a shock to you, the things that you learned and how you had to adjust, change of lifestyle, joining the military and the Army?
Well, no, getting yelled at really wasn't foreign to me. The discipline of getting up every morning and doing what you had to do right away and making all that stuff happen, that was a little bit different. It was a little bit of a culture shock. And then, Fort Benning's 150 degrees in December still, it felt like. So that was a bit of a climate shock. But other than that, just being in trouble for everything, and it was PT for literally everything. I tried to screw myself up down there too. We were in a giant formation. There was 2 platoons together, and we were doing about 1,000 side straddle hops, jumping jacks.
Wow.
But they're 4 counts.
Yes.
So halfway through, we're at about 600 or 700, man, and I'm literally. I don't know what possessed me to do it, but in cadence, because it's 1, 2, 3, 1, 1, 2, 3, 2. My bright ass said, "This sucks dick," loud enough for the drill sergeant. Well, I learned the meaning of suck that day. They let everyone else go into chow. They kept me and my battle buddy, another island boy, Matt Langa, down there. And I don't mean to say island boy like that because I realize how that just sounded. Those guys are weird. Another kid who grew up on the island with me. But he stood there with a couple of canteens of water as I transported a sandbag about 100 yards at a time on each shoulder, just running back and forth for about 4 hours straight. Wow. 104 count flutter kicks, looking a drill sergeant in the eye later. And I couldn't move the next day, man. It was bad. It was bad. They were like, but again, as the sun came up, the lights came on, and it was time to go. So I got up and I did what I had to do.
Chris?
I'm just trying to picture that, and I think that would be a great blow-up drill when it comes to training on Monday night.
Oh, man. He's over here. He's picturing blowing up the kids. With,
I am. That's perfect.
with that. So
Oh,
you know,
then, someday when I'm down there, we'll do that.
what, on a serious note, so now you're in the military. You know, you're going through all the training or whatnot. Did you ever thought that all this would lead to you actually getting deployed it for combat?
Actually, yes, because about halfway through was when the USS Cole was bombed. That Jesse Neal, TNA superstar, who I actually made friends with a little bit. He was on board the Cole.
Wow.
And so when that happened, they actually alerted us at about 2:00 in the morning over the intercom system that had happened. So we all kind of got the inclination that something was going to happen. Later on, fast forward to January of 2001, I reported to Fort Drum, New York, 1st of the 87th Infantry Battalion. First day in the unit, my platoon sergeant called me down to his office. He inspected our run times. I thought I was fast until I felt that cold of upstate New York. And he told us flat out that day, Sergeant Michael Peterson said to us, "I'm taking this platoon to war. Be ready." 9 months and a few days later, we all know what happened, and with 9/11, and we touched ground October 6th of 2001. We were the first regular Army unit deployed to Afghanistan. The only people who beat us there were Special Forces and spooks.
So now you get down to Afghanistan. If we could get into it, what is that experience like? For the first time ever getting to war and being involved and being a part of all this. Are you thinking, about making it back home? Obviously in one piece, and making it back alive is another thing. The thoughts that were going through your head, if you don't mind sharing that with all of us that haven't been in that situation.
The thought was, I want everyone else to go home before me, and that's the God's honest truth. It's a camaraderie. The only camaraderie like that I found since has been pro wrestling, and that obviously fades from time to time. But with the military, man, it's I want everyone to go home, even if it means I don't get to, and some of our guys didn't get to, but we still pay homage every year to them. In September, I'll actually be out in the Methuen area of Mass. A buddy of mine out there, I forget the actual town, but we go out pretty much every year. And this will be the 20th anniversary of his passing over in combat. He died during the second tour over there, and we go to see his parents every year. So we'll be out there visiting him, and it's gut-wrenching. You're losing family over there, and it's not ever easy. The thought process was, do I want to go home? Yes, absolutely. I used to love to do silly things over there. We were on a mission one time, and we had this guy from the AFN network, Armed Forces Network. He was reporting on battle stuff, and this kid was nervous as all get out, man. We hit contact, and we all took cover. He's got his 9mm, and he's shaking like this right in front of his face. So I kind of gently took that away from him, and I said, "Hey, man, you still got that satellite phone on you?" And we're in the middle of a firefight, man. It's fucking hairy out there. And my dad will attest to this. I literally took that satellite phone and I called my dad to show this young man I wasn't afraid of what was going on and everything was going to be okay. So I called my father up and he said, "Wow, it sounds like you're in the next room." I said, "Yeah, listen to this." And I hold the phone up over the rock I'm hiding behind. He didn't like that. But hey, on a quick side note, today's August 17th. Happy birthday to my old man. He's up there in North Providence at Lincoln Woods Rehabilitation Center, recovering from an autoimmune disease. He's learning to walk all over again. He's doing great. I'm very proud of him. But happy birthday, Pop. Love you, man.
Good. A happy birthday to Ron Sr. there. If he's watching, get well soon. We hope you're doing really good. So, going back and stopping, the story for a second, it seems like, every time somebody mentions, their dad, it touches me because that was the relationship that I had with my father. As you know, you got to meet my dad. How was it with you and your dad growing up?
My dad was, he was and is my best friend. I mean, he's my confidant. He taught me the game of baseball, taught me the passion of working hard, and, made fun of me about wrestling a lot. But it was great. I remember I rented a pay-per-view one time, and he sat there watching with me, and I'm not sure. It was probably one of the In Your Houses, one of those monthly ones they were running back in the mid-'90s.
Okay.
And it was Bret Hart just getting worn out, man, in the corner. Just, you remember the old 10 punches where they're crawling along. Yeah. You still try to get that going. It doesn't always work. But he's getting worn out. My dad's like, look, not a bruise on him. Like, I know. Man, just let me enjoy it. Yeah, he wasn't a big wrestling fan until I started to actually do some stuff with it. And then he quickly became my number one fan on, and you guys remember he was there pretty much every show, and he definitely loved it. Well, still, I guess he still does. He asked me a question today that I'm not quite prepared to answer, but
okay, all right.
So we'll get to that later on.
So Ronnie, going back to being at war at this point, how many tours did you do? Was it multiple tours?
Yeah, I did 2 tours of Afghanistan, 22 total months of my life. From the north part of it to the southern part of it, Bagram to Afghanistan, to Kandahar, Afghanistan, and every fire base in between, it seems. I actually came off a 12-hour guard shift, sat down, lit a cigarette, because, yes, for those of you who don't know, the S.O.G was a smoker. And my 21st birthday, and no sooner did I light that cigarette, I got, hey, you, come over here. You got on detail. This is right after a 12-hour overnight shift, man, 7 a.m. Wow. And I'm setting up GP medium tents in the rain in Bagram, Afghanistan. We set up about 35 GP mediums that day. It was the start of the tent city there. And, that was a happy birthday to me. When I was done, they tossed me in old duels. Wow. Chris, it is what it is. That's why I drink so much now.
Chris is sitting here. He's just listening.
No. Well, next week my mic is going to be all set.
Just speak up.
So the idea is, so I'm glad you said your age. So when you joined, were you 19?
Yes, I was.
So you were 19. You were single. You were a screw up. You got bounced out of college. You got in the military. The military was prepping you for marriage. When you're laughing, but you know it's true. All right, so
I know where you're going.
All right, so you're 21. You did 2 tours. When do you actually get out of the service? Or put it this way, is there more in the story that you want to elaborate? Because this is your story, the way that you actually want people to hear it.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's kind of amazing that I managed to meet my wife in between tours. She was a student at Lemoyne College in Syracuse. But, I reported to Fort Drum in January. By May, we were stationed at West Point, training the cadidiots down there. And, I call them cadidiots because when they're students, they're really stupid. But then we came back. 9/11 happened. Went overseas, no real return date in mind. Once we did get back, we did a tour of JRTC in Louisiana, and then a second time we went there, and then we went right back to Afghanistan again. So I was at Drum for 2 winters, basically, and I managed to meet my lovely wife at that time. She was with me throughout my second tour, and I got out because I had gotten orders passed down. The Department of Defense doesn't care where you are, really, to go to Korea. They needed NCOs in Korea, non-commissioned officers. I had just passed my sergeant's board. I was already a corporal. And fortunately and unfortunately, they couldn't delete those orders. I wanted to stay with my men in Afghanistan. They were going to send me home for 45 days, 30 to clear Fort Drum, 15 to spend with my family, and then report to Camp Casey in South Korea. I tried everything under the sun to re-up, to get those orders deleted. I did not want to go to Korea, and with my terminal leave, I could get out before those orders were up. So they offered me a free school. I asked them for scuba school. Not being a smart ass, that's literally a school I was interested in.
Yeah.
They couldn't do that. They kept offering me money, and I was like, it's not the money, it's the principle. I want to stay with my men.
Mm-hmm.
And that didn't work out too well. And come to find out later on, I was diagnosed with some pretty severe PTSD, and I guess that was part of the whole wanting to stay too. I'm not sure, but I can tell you that those were the two main causes that made me exit the military.
So now you're gone. You exit the military. How do you find pro wrestling now? How does that come about? How do you start training to become a professional wrestler?
Brother, that was a couple years later. I had no idea. I was living in Syracuse, New York. James Street Apartments. I was selling cars for Sam Dell Nissan, working out when I wasn't partying, and partying a little too hard. There was actually a school about 3 blocks away that I ended up going to a lot of years later. Mm-hmm. Run by Zachary Springate III, the Institute of Professional Wrestling. He was a student of Killers, and which is just a beautiful thing that he actually has a handwritten note from Killer giving him the name, and I'm like, this is pretty freaking cool, man. Mm-hmm. I wish I had found it then, because at 23, 24 years old, I was like 205, walking around with like 16% body fat, just chiseled out of granite, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And when I found wrestling several years later, I was not in that good a shape. So to tighten that story up a bit, I ended up moving back to Rhode Island, where I enrolled in CCRI and walked onto the baseball team there with Coach Ken Hopkins, now Mayor Ken Hopkins of Cranston. Mm-hmm. And I had a blast playing ball there for 2 years. From there, my wife and I were engaged and living in Nanuet, New York. When we were both sitting there on our computers, not doing much of nothing at the end of the evening, she said, I'm sending you an email right now. And I said, okay, what is it? She said, it's a invitation to Deal or No Deal auditions for wrestling fans. And I said, son of a bitch, you're going to like this one, Richie. You're going to like this one. So I'm like, okay, cool. I'm going to go to this thing, and I'm going to try and get myself on TV and open some briefcases, Turns out it's all workers. Legitimately, workers, they see an opportunity. They're flocking to this shit.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting there, and I'm filling out my thing, and I look up at this big blonde son of a bitch, and I'm like, and he looks down at me, and he's like, you a worker? And I'm like, no, but I know who you are. And he just looks down. He's like, huh, who am I? And I said, Joseph von Schmidt. I had gone to a couple indie shows, and I watched JVS perform, and I don't know, are we allowed to use like real names? I'm sure we are. He's out. It's like Pete's, he knows. Me and him quickly linked up. Like, it was instantaneous friendship while we're filling out forms. We're people watching. We're making fun of people. One of your good friends was there that day, got himself kicked out, Damian Darling.
Oh, man, Damian.
This was my first Damian experience. Filled out the paperwork in a flash, ran back to the bar. God knows how much he drank. Came back in as we're all sitting in the room, swings the door open, gives a big nature boy, woo, runs in, takes a bump on this solid cement floor.
Yep, I believe it.
Pops up.
That's Damien.
And he's just like, I'm here. And literally, I'm here. And the producer goes, and you're gone. Escorted right out. I was like, wow. So don't be like that guy. And Pete looks at me and goes, I know that guy really well. I was like, okay. So Pete was just like, if you have a real interest in this, why don't you come out to my school? We had just had my son. I was checking in, and this is no lie, I was checking in at 289.
Wow.
I was pushing chewed up bubble gum, brother. It was bad. But I went out to his school. It was a day that he wasn't having classes to, get my feet wet. 33 Chestnut Street, New Haven, Connecticut, Pro Wrestling Academy. It was just Pete, his wife at the time, Kara, and myself in the building. 3 hours of blow-up drills later, he said, I bet you don't come back tomorrow. But I was there before he was, ready to open the doors. I had the bug. That was it. I was itched. I spent about 10 months going there 3 to 5 nights a week. It was quite a drive for me, so I'm sure there was some weeks it was 1 or 2 nights, but I don't remember any of those. I just remember being sore every damn day and shedding weight like crazy. I dropped down to probably about 230 in 10 months, like just shedded weight. A job opened up for my wife here in central New York. So she interviewed, got the job. We moved up here. We left on October 20th. We left Connecticut and ended up here November 1st. I started at the school at the Institute of Pro Wrestling in Syracuse with Zachary Springate III. He was the head trainer and owner. His assistant trainer was Isis Effects, a guy who absolutely deserved a better shot than he's ever gotten in this business.
Yes. All those guys, if they watch, shout out to them. Damian Dowling, stay out of trouble. Pete, he's always been good to me. Shout out to him. Isis, the same thing. I got to work with him a few times up here in the Northeast. All great guys, all good talent.
He always puts on a hell of a match, and I got to watch him and Steen tear it down, or Kevin Owens. It's so tough when these guys change names when they make it, huh?
Yeah.
I watched him. They tore it down in Rome, New York, I think it was, when I was still a student there. It was rough though because I showed up, and of course Springate wants it to be, his way. Which okay, I'll adjust. I'll do this. I'll do that. I'd already been out of 10 months. A lot of the young guys there didn't realize that, I'm taking bookings on the weekends. They think I'm just poo-pooing my trainer and just doing whatever I want.
Yeah.
I'd already been in like a couple of actual matches, a few gimmicky type matches, and a bunch of like battle royals and, the typical stuff we all do coming up, hey, there's an opportunity. Do you have your shit? Well, I don't have my shit, but I got boots and some shorts. Like I can figure this out. So, we did that. The first match was at a Friday Night Fights, which became much bigger later on against, I don't know if you remember him or not, AC Coltrane. He used to wear a fanny pack.
Yes.
Older guy, actually.
Yes, I know.
He had the mustache.
Yeah.
And the shitty part was he actually got fired from my first match because Pete fired him because he didn't do what he said. I was a gimmick where I came out of the crowd to challenge him. He was doing the whole anybody in the building. Yeah. Points at me. I come in. I got to throw one punch, and then it was supposed to be a squash, just outright. And I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. Let's do that. So he biffs me, picks me up for a choke slam. Boom. He goes to pin me and goes, I didn't get that good enough. So he stands up, puts a couple boots to me, picks me up, and does it again. And Pete's going, what are you doing? You're making yourself look weak. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, well, I don't know any better, so I just went with it. And I don't know, I guess that was the right thing to do because after that, I just kept my mouth shut as he was getting yelled at.
So you mentioned he was your first match, and now you're working for Pete out in Connecticut. What is?
I was traveling the road with him every weekend, too.
Oh, you were traveling back to New York?
To New York, like Long Island when he was doing stuff for VPW, out to Lancaster Pro in Pennsylvania. I had maybe the worst first full match ever out there at Lancaster. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's on the internet too, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's the thing with the internet. Everything gets out there.
What's the date on that one? We'll have our controller find it.
Oh God, he's trying to put the burn on that.
Man, you've put me in too many matches where I walked away with a bunch of $1 bills to.
So now you mentioned all these places that are outside to to basically your roots, because you have strong ties in Rhode Island and Massachusetts. When do you make that shift to come down and start working in this area? And who were the first promotions that you worked for in Massachusetts and Rhode Island?
It wasn't long after that. It was actually a seminar got me in the door. I was back home visiting, and there was a seminar with JT Dunn, who I'm pretty sure I just paid for his meal that night. Mm-hmm. And they let me come back the following week at RWA, T Phoenix.
Yep.
He cut me a deal. He said, you can sell tickets and you keep 50%, that'll be your payday. And I said, oh, shit. I mean, he didn't know at the time I was from the area, apparently.
Yeah.
So I had like a $400 payday, my first paycheck.
That's always good when you could do that, you know.
Oh, I sold like 50 tickets. I was working my ass off. Hey, it's 50%. I'm going to take it. He didn't give me that deal again, though. Like, he realized what happened. But, yeah. But it was good. First match for them, I ended up with this scar above my eye from a headbutt, and the guy's hand slipped off me and blasted me in the eye. And, yeah, my 3-year-old son saw that firsthand, like watched it happen from 5 feet away.
Oh, man.
Yeah, it was pretty traumatic for him, but hey, I was okay. So it was what it was.
So
you know, that shit happened.
So that was your first going around here, was doing that seminar with JT Dunn, and then working for the RWA. How do you work for other promotions in the area? You just start, you know, reaching out to people.
Basically, I was stuck there, and I had about 150 matches against the Irish Warrior, and I was teaming a lot with Frank the Crank, Big Frank Smith. He's a real estate agent now, and I was trying to get in everywhere I saw. Went to NCW a few times, helped with the ring and everything. JC didn't put me on. Okay, no problem. Checked out Top Rope a few times, tried to get in there, didn't put me on. Couple places in Connecticut, didn't put me on. But fortunately, so I was working for RWA, PWA in Connecticut with Von Schmidt, and then Nocturne actually got me in with Drake Evans at In Your Face Wrestling. So those were the only 3 places I was working. That's steady work for about a year. I started to get a little annoyed. I went to an NCW show, passed a gentleman in the hallway. We both stopped and looked at each other. We were like, do I know you? And we both decided, no, never met, but nice to meet you. And that was Osiris. The next week, I was talking with my wife. We went out to see a show in Connecticut. They called him Fat Eric, was the promoter. He's gone now. I forget the name of the promotion. But the big thing that happened there was my wife went with me, and I was literally telling her I'm going to stop traveling to New England. If I don't get on with these guys, I'm just gonna do In Your Face in New York and have some fun with this and be done. Well, I'm really happy I did, because Osiris walked in the door, and I said, hey, I know you. And he was there for the same reason, to get his information in front of Eric. He sat down. I said, hey, man, you do the whole Simply God's Best, but in a heel manner. And he goes, yeah. He said, and I've been looking at you. You do the Soldier of God as a heel. And I was like, yeah. And so we're like, well, there's something there. Next thing you know, I get a phone call. I'm sitting on the couch watching a movie with the wife, and it's like 8, 9 o'clock at night, and it's Osiris. He says, hey, can you be in, I forget what town it was, just outside of Boston, this Wednesday or Thursday or whatever it was? And I said, yeah, what's going on? He says, well, there's a place out there, VPW. It's Bo Douglas and Jason Rumble. And I got us a tag match. See how it goes. So we went out there and we worked with Lumberjake and Big Bear. And we had a pretty good showing, actually, to where Rumble said, how many times have you guys done this? None. At that same time, and I didn't know this at the time, Osiris actually covered my gas out there that night because Rumble wasn't paying. I'd find out later on, too. Jay, I love you, man. you know,
Yeah, they didn't get the gas.
hey, grab a hot dog, kid, but if you take two, leave $1. But at the same time, I had put out a message to Showcase Pro Wrestling and Chris Blackheart. I got a message back saying, hey, we're actually looking to redo our to revamp our tag division. We'd like to have you guys come in. We worked the first match against Romano and Paiva, how you say it, and we put them over, and we got a call back. I was like, okay, cool. So we ended up, getting some gear made up, and I mean, the rest is kind of history as far as that goes. That was a great run, that first run of the Fellowship.
Yeah.
Many matches against the Wrestlers, the Cool People, the Middlesex Express, which was some of my favorite ones. And then Redemption and Matt Storm.
Okay. So now, you guys
ended up at Showcase.
You guys are tagging. You establish a tag team at Showcase, and you're working a whole bunch of different guys. So it seems like you and Osiris hit it off right off the bat, and you had something in common, which it doesn't happen, for a lot of people as fast when they begin a tag team. Talk about Osiris, in and out the ring, your relationship with GA.
Man, I can't say enough good things about that cat. He came up from my youngest son's christening even. I love him to death. We're both Christians. We both believe in training and working hard. And we both believe that when there's a good idea, to run it. And run it until it doesn't have wheels anymore. Mm-hmm. I see him doing that again now with a couple younger guys. And it was great because the momentum was on our side. Luckily, the office saw something they liked, even if we took a half an hour to get in the ring every night.
Say that again.
Hey,
I don't know who was worse back then, you or Nick Knight.
And did you put me and him in a match too? But,
you and Nicholas.
Yeah. 10 seconds in, he kicked me in the pills.
Oh man.
Yeah, he did kick me. And it turns out he did it on purpose. He apologized, but he did it because he was pissed off he had to put me over. But it's like, come on, man. I didn't choose. But when it comes to Osiris, man, there's not enough good things. We were always on the same page. It was weird because it was one of those scenarios where we didn't have to think much. It was I know where he's at, he knows where I'm at, we know what we're going to be doing.
Yeah.
So we would go places, like we took a trip out to a place in Pennsylvania, and they gave us a deaf referee.
Oh, I love Matt.
Shoot, he's deaf.
Matt, he's an awesome referee. He calls it literally how he sees it.
Is that who it was?
Yes, it had to be because we used Matt for years. I thought he was great. Guys complained about finishes. I'm like, just go and talk to him. And Matt had no idea what they were saying, which I thought was great. And
he was just nodding his head.
Yes,
he just nodded his head. Okay,
yeah.
And we went out there. And we had a fabulous match, and we didn't say two words because what are you going to say? I mean, it's like, okay, this is what they're giving us. Let's do it. And it was great. It's a great match. Went off well. We had a lot of fun traveling up and down the roads. He's not a big drinker. I am a big drinker, so that worked out well too because it's like, okay, you get us back to the hotel.
So, Ronnie, after that run with Fellowship is done, you actually continue on and you became the SPW Heavyweight Champion. Talk to us about that run, the enjoyment out of working on your own now, and is it your favorite to work singles or tag team, either or? Which ones you favor the most?
Okay, well, let me work backwards on that. Tag team wrestling will always be my love. I fell in love with the Road Warriors a long time ago, and from the Road Warriors, I went to Arn and Tully. Mm-hmm. And I love tag team wrestling. It's the way it is. when I made that transition, I actually talked to Osiris. I didn't think I was ready for that transition. We were doing the Firehouse show,
Yes.
Chris, if you remember. And you were there too, Don.
Yeah.
And Sark was there. We all went to grab a bite across the street because y'all had to talk to me about something. I said, "Oh shit, I'm fired, aren't I?" That's literally the first thing I said to you. Remember? We sat down. I said, "Shit, I'm fired, aren't I?" And you said, "No, you're gonna win the gauntlet, and we're gonna put the belt on you." And I went, "Thank you." I had no idea, man. I didn't think I was that damn good. I really didn't. I really didn't think I could do it. And the crowd literally turned me that night in the gauntlet with, and I can't thank the Bitter Club enough for that. Buddy and Levesque did wonders to get me over that night.
Yes.
I mean, actually, I didn't have to do shit. They did all of that. That crowd was calling my name, and I remember just sitting there, and I'm pulling myself up, and I'm hearing each from S.O.G. And I'm like, what did these guys do to make me fucking like this? Like, I'm just Ronnie, man. And I always remembered saying, I hated when the guys stomped their feet. So I started trying to get rhythm back and forth with the crowd. And later on, Mike Romano had told me, he was like, that was a good job to do that as opposed to what everyone else does. So I was really happy with that. The match against Matrix was great. I actually just watched that match back the other day because I had forgotten a lot of it, as you know, as we do. But I remember saying to him at one point, we were tied up in the corner, and he goes, "Ronnie, I think we got him." And it was something, whip me out reversal line, and as we both went down, I was like, "No, we definitely got him." Like, the whole crowd was on fire for it. It was good. I loved it because my family was there, my boys were there. Everyone was, it was a good moment, and I really appreciated that opportunity to run with that for a little bit. And the opportunity to work with the guys I worked with after that too, like Montero, who I don't care, like me and him could both be, have sick with COVID. We're going to have a good match together. Levesque, again, working with him, Romano, and Noriega, of course, who I worked at that 3-match series with. Mm-hmm. Even with the language barrier, because he speaks English, but not a ton.
Yeah.
I speak English, but not a ton of Spanish. Mm-hmm. But we made it work, and I felt like those matches went off really well too.
Okay, so Ronnie, we mentioned throughout the show, obviously, coming back from active, war and stuff like that, being in the service, you have PTSD. Did that affect you throughout your time in wrestling as well? Was wrestling kind of therapy for you? Can you talk to us about that?
Yeah, the in-ring and the training was definitely therapy. And I haven't told very many people this. My wife knows it. Osiris knows it. Doc Ozone knows it. The scariest moment for me at the time in everyday life, because I was on the road every weekend back then. Like there was 3 or 4 years before COVID where I was wrestling everywhere. Like I just posted a picture just the other day. I said, damn, I was busy. Mm-hmm. It was every weekend. Mm-hmm. And 2-3 shots a weekend. And I'll tell you, the scariest moment every single time was walking through the curtain and knowing that many people could get that close to me that quickly. Mm-hmm. I don't handle those situations well. If you noticed, it would always, every time the fellowship came out, it was Osiris and then me. Mm-hmm. Every single time. It was done on purpose. I let him lead the way. When I was by myself, I was choking back everything in me to shake hands and, be the good baby face, the hero, whatever you want to call it. And it was really difficult for me to perform that role. Not that I didn't like it or want to be a part of that role. It was just difficult for me to connect with people, knowing there was that many people. Mm-hmm. So yeah. But the therapy was in the ring, man. Getting like because we've had a match together. Remember at Fenway Park we had that good match, and my damn wardrobe malfunctioned. But I told you, I said, I like it snug. And boss, I know you have no problem laying that in there. We were in a couple of battle royals and gauntlets together, and I was like, damn. First time I grabbed him, Don, I swear I bear hugged him. I was like, what do I owe you, money? He was in there peppering me, man. I was like, damn, dude.
That's not my fault. He's a Connecticut guy. They have a tendency of working super light and not really touching. So we do tell that story. We do ask, can you please tell us, when you're doing a pre-match, you're not sure of the guy. One of the questions our trainees do ask, are you from Connecticut? Do you train from Connecticut? We just want to make sure you're not a pussy.
Man. Here we go. Here's the heater part coming out.
But on the...
I missed part of that. Did you want me to compare training in Connecticut to New York?
He said he was he's trying to be a wise ass.
No. Some of the Connecticut, in all fairness, different places have different styles of training. A lot of Connecticut people are very super light when they're working, that you barely know they're doing anything.
Okay.
All right. So, which is true. We teach safe and snug.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So that's not my fault.
You were just stiff.
No, I was safe and snug. If you're a pussy, that's not my fault.
Oh,
right?
Hey.
All right.
But now, why don't we go down the bad road?
It's your question. You've been quiet. I feel like.
No.
Feel like I'm.
No. You're actually doing phenomenal there, kid.
All right.
But Ronnie, when you had your demons, did they all come from your service, or was it service, alcohol, childhood? What brought it together? If you can reflect now.
I come from a long line of sinners, but I would never pass the buck. It's on me. It's things that when you've done the things I've done, and you've seen the things I've seen, and I'm not saying this to be a hard ass.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you need a way to cope, and sometimes it gets away from you. It's gotten away from me before. I've apologized to the people involved, including yourself, Chris. I have let it get the best of me at times. I try not to. I absolutely ask for forgiveness. Mm-hmm. I can't bullshit. I'll tell the truth. All those damn fireball nippers were me, Redemption, and Matrix. Yeah. And I ain't throwing him under the bus either. He'd laugh his ass off right now if he's watching. I guarantee it. And I guarantee you Rev's up there giggling, smoking a Newport. But it's just the way it was, man. It's like if I throw back a couple of shots, okay, now I'm starting to get loose. It makes it a lot easier for me to handle. It's not just the loud noises. It's the sheer vicinity of all the people that really got to me. Mm-hmm. One of the most nervous times was right before Vega, when we were Muppets for the WWE that time.
Yes.
The conga line.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can attest to this. I was super duper nervous. No.
Yeah.
When we stepped through, I realized that the barriers were there. I felt safe. I started having a good time. Mm-hmm. But it's the quantity of people that really get to me, like traffic. Traffic doesn't do me any good at all. But as far as my demons, I can't pass the buck on that. They're on me, and I'll own them till the day I die. But I still owe Nick Diamond a better match. I'll put it to you that way. Mm-hmm. I still owe the other kid there. Doing the last run where we dropped the tag titles.
Oh, Lewis.
I still owe Lewis a better match than that. And that wasn't even an intoxication thing. That was an ego thing. Mm-hmm. I owe him a better match than that. And for that, I'm sorry. I'm not sorry to stand up to you, because I've seen what happened to people who don't stand up to you either.
Yeah, I know. I know we're hard asses, and then that's part of it. You know, this is
You
a
know, it's-
brotherhood, and it's in a brotherhood you're gonna have fights, and you're gonna have arguments. You're gonna have times where you don't agree, and that's fine. You know.
In that case, I'm big enough man to admit I was wrong, and I said it to you right after, and I said it to you, a few times since. It does weigh on me, but I mean, let's face it, in this business, we like to have a good time too, and so I'm sure that didn't add to it. Being on the road every weekend, away from the family, it's like, all right, well, let me get a 12-pack for tonight. I'll hit the gym in the morning, and then it's the gym, and let me go to breakfast. Oh, they got Bloody Marys. Let me have a Bloody Mary,
Yeah.
That night with Nick Diamond, that was pure shit. I never should have stepped foot in that ring. I should have. I'm not pissed off that I showed up because I've never missed a booking unless I absolutely had to. But I shouldn't have gone in that ring that night, and I do apologize to you, Chris, again, and to Nick Diamond. I shouldn't have done that, but I did, and luckily nobody got hurt. And I owe him a better match. It's that simple. If you'll have it.
Yeah, I'm sure those guys will. And it's a big thing to know and admit when something's wrong and apologize for it. Not that many people are man enough to do so. They'd rather go online and talk shit behind people's backs or get mad and post a whole bunch of bullshit. So, kudos to you for doing it
You and I
straightforward.
both. Nowadays, there's a lack of actual tough guys in this business. It used to be full of them. Nowadays, there's a lot of guys who will talk a lot of shit behind your back, and we've all had it happen. But they don't say nothing when you actually confront the issue.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of backlash off of the first episode of this podcast, and I called in the next week and I said, anybody who has an issue, well, why do it online? Just talk about it like men.
Yeah. And even at then, going back to those prior episodes, the beginning episodes, we got our third episode got canned because somebody reported it. It's a public outlet. We're expressing our feelings.
Yeah, I got a couple ideas for that one. We'll talk about the Whaling City Festival one.
Yes.
I got a couple ideas on we're gonna get that.
Hey, I love the Whaling City Festival. You called me up. I had just driven in from Maine, and I was sleeping in the parking lot, getting ready to do a show for MAW, maybe Mass Anarchy, one of those ones that ran out of the chop shop.
Yeah.
Me and they're sleeping. It's like literally the sun just rose, and we're sleeping in the parking lot. And Don shows up Vega on my phone. I'm like, hello. He's like, hey, bro, you guys want to do a show right now? Their impersonation's not that good these days, but I just looked at Dante. He's like, sure, let's go. So we go over there. You put us in a match with Monster Mac, Storm, and Rev. And Rev and Storm decided they were going to have a little fun with old S.O.G. Man, that ring was cooking. That vinyl mat was just, you didn't want to be there.
Yeah.
First thing they did was bump me. And then they didn't let me up. I was like, get the fuck off of me. Snapmare. Fuck.
Yeah, it could be brutal.
Yeah.
Those can be brutal with the hot summer weather and 90-degree sun hitting that canvas is not. It's not forgiving.
Cracking up for their breath too. They're laughing their asses off. Like, oh, he's gonna be so pissed. Keep him down.
So Ronnie,
But that was a good time.
moving on to your last run in wrestling, you mentioned to us before that you were working hurt. How does your injury come about, and how you pursue? Because for a long time you were waiting to get things situated. Talk to us about that.
Well, I had pinched nerves in my neck for a long time. I'm not sure exactly when it started. I can tell you a few matches early on in my career where I can divulge that, oh yeah, I had stingers going on, and under the big top, that main event with Bobby Ocean, who again, he's another guy, he's never been given a good enough chance. That Will can work circles around anybody, and he's just dynamite. Love working with him. But we were in a hurry. The crowd was emptying out because Stryker had just given that go home speech.
Yep.
And Will comes and he blindsides me from the backside. I'm like, fuck. My whole arm, just both arms, hellfire and brimstone. Couldn't feel them. Half of that match, I'm doing this because I couldn't feel them. And it just kept getting worse and worse and worse. And like I had told you, like there's a real problem going on. Mm-hmm. And I'm not sure how much. If you look at some of my last matches, I maybe bump once every 2 matches. Mm-hmm. It was a big problem. It turns out I needed fusion surgery. I don't know if y'all can see that nice scar right there. They fused C5, 6, and 7. Just this week, my voice has come back. I went through many channels of Mickey Mouse to the gingerbread man from Shrek to oh, not the gumdrop buttons to then I sounded a lot like Freddy Krueger or Randy Savage for a while, and then for a few weeks my Stone Cold impersonation was just spot on. So, luckily now that's back, but unfortunately, and this is the first that most people are going to hear about this, they are concerned they did not get all the levels they needed to. I recently had an MRI, and I'll be meeting with the doctor again on the 24th to see if they need to go back in for C4 to C5 to stop the numbness and tingling down my arms. Wow. Narrowing of the spine doesn't help. But, and like we always like to say in this business, never say never, but as of right now, boys, it's been a blast.
Yeah, man, never say never, and we're hoping for the best. If you do have to have another procedure done, we're hoping that, you can kick out of it, no pun intended, because we're wrestling related. And, there's always other avenues in this business as well. It's not just I try to tell the guys when I train that they need to learn the business all the way around, in and out, because there's other avenues that you could be of use and utilize in the business. So the door's always open for other things. So
for about a year, I was working as the head trainer at UWE up here in New York, NIDA, and great place to learn what you learn the basics and get a good head on your shoulders. As the surgery approached, I relinquished that. That's now the head trainer there now is Ben Hameen. I don't know if you know him or not. He's a New York guy. But he was down there with Rip for a while at OVW and stuff like that. He's very knowledgeable, very good trainer. Mm-hmm. But yeah, there's always more avenues, and there's more stuff. For a long time, once I decided to stop going out on the road, I told my wife flat out, I'm not ready to be around it. Because you know the deal. I'm going to show up at a show and someone's going to say, "Hey, you got the gear in the car?"
Yeah, mm-hmm. yeah.
And I'm going to go, well, of course, because that's been my life the last 12 years, Mm-hmm. And then I'm going to screw myself up worse. And
yeah, definitely don't need to be doing that. Definitely health comes first. And, wrestling will always be there tomorrow. I know it's hard because, I've been on that same boat where I tried telling people that, but in reality, as a wrestler, you're always thinking, "Damn, man, I want to be out there. I want to be in the ring. I want to be wrestling." It's kind of like a drug. And,
it is,
and it's hard to get off that high that you get from going out there and being in front of a crowd and having people just react and have emotions to your story that you're trying to put out there. So. It's definitely easier said than done, when it comes to that part. But like I said, we're hoping for the best, Ronnie. We like to play this little game called the name game on the podcast. Blackheart, you did some homework finally. And before we go on, because Ronnie did mention that the crowd was leaving on that Big Top show against Bobby Oceans.
Yeah.
The brilliant idea from Blackheart, because he always wanted the heavyweight title to go on main event. I said, you should have that match before Striker goes out there. No. We're going to have it at the end. So kudos to Blackheart for the people leaving. I had to put the bird on him on that one.
No, I was trying to.
I mean, it is true, though.
Yeah.
The second you put the mic in his hand, he was going to do a go-home speech.
Yes.
He was going to put him over. It's just the way it is.
Good going, Blackheart.
Hey.
You fucked it up that time.
I'm sorry if I was trying to make Ronnie a main eventer to get over the best he could have got, because we had a good crowd underneath the big top, and I thought literally we won the spotlight to be on the heavyweight champion. So I said, hey, why don't we try this, see how it goes.
Well, the spotlight still would have been on him.
Yeah.
And by the way, Striker, didn't you never brought names to Whalum City Festival? I heard a story. We never brought names.
Yeah, we only brought three. We brought three that time.
Yeah, there was only
We
three
had
that
Robbie,
same weekend.
We had Manu.
So it was Striker, one of my best good buddies who put me through a table, Alpha Jr.
Yeah.
And who was the third one on that?
It was Rob Eccles, Robbie.
Yeah.
That's right, Robbie E. That's right.
Because ironically, that year we were contracted, because we did two separate contracts. We were contracted to bring one guy in.
Yeah.
And we took the
I was gonna say,
budget
'cause Tito
and we did three.
was there 1 year.
Yeah, he was there another one of the years. But, I just...
And
go ahead, Ron.
and the Spirit Squad, too. You guys wrestled against the Spirit Squad, you and Cargill Vin.
Yes.
Yeah, again,
But
when
some sources claim that we never had names, that they
we
gave
never
a
brought-
budget and we never brought names or whatever. But I just figured I'd throw
well, that was good.
out
So
there.
let's go into one of Ronnie's favorite. Maybe we should rename, instead of the name game, Ronnie's favorite subject, because he loves this segment.
The name
Yes.
game? Okay.
So let's go in, all right?
I love the name
I'll
game.
go backwards, right? This is in no particular order. Why don't we go Jose?
Jose who?
Jose Perez. Jose Perez. He's got a really good mind, and I feel like every time I see him, I say hello, and I always will. If he gets offended right now, I'm sorry. Sometimes he puts his nose in places it shouldn't be. That's the only thing I can say about him. I love him to death as a creative mind in New England. I think he's got a great mind. I think at one point he was probably a pretty good worker. I've seen tape, but I don't know. Sometimes you just got to know when not to talk.
Okay. Matrix.
Put another belt on him. I want one more run. Every time that kid's held a belt, I've taken it off him. He hates that. But no, me and him, I love him to death. But now, there was a time I wanted to knock his lights out. Talking during the anthem, and you guys know I've always been very big on that. Don't do that. Like,
Same way.
I don't care if
Drives
you want
me
to sit
nuts.
down. I don't care. You want to not pay attention. I don't care. Don't talk. And he was talking to her. I said, hey, man, don't talk. He kept talking. I said, Matrix, shut up. He kept talking. I said, shut the fuck up. He stood up. I pushed him right back down. I said, you're going to shut up. And we had to be pulled apart and all that stuff. But he just didn't get it at the time. You know what I mean? That, it's a respect thing. It's nothing personal.
Yeah.
Just, even if you don't want to show respect to the flag and to the anthem, show it to me.
Yeah.
If I haven't earned your respect, that's different. But I haven't done anything not to. Okay, next.
Who you got next, Chris Blackheart?
Why don't we do Phoenix?
See, Phoenix, I think he's wasted a ton of talent. I do. I think he was I think he had a lot of potential, especially for a bigger guy, which we all know that's when you get to be a bigger and heavy set, it's tough. But I think he wasted a lot of talent. He's got a good mind for it, but sometimes he's not willing to work with people. And his kid's dynamite. He's tearing it up, man. His kid is tearing it up. But he fired me once because Montero said I smothered him in a match or something. But the whole business of the match was me and my partner breaking up. They were still getting the win, and I still got fired.
Okay. Speaking of Montero, that's the name. The other name on the list, Mike Montero.
Hey man, I love Mike. We've had nothing but bangers. That kid can go. Again, literally he can tear it up with just about anybody, man, and has lately. But I remember we had a great match in front of fucking nobody at the at the school. It was one of those time limit draw matches, and we stood up, and Sarge came out and said, "If you guys want 5 more, they're saying go ahead." So we kept going, and I fucking love that match. That's one of my favorite matches I ever had with anybody.
Chris?
Why don't you do Muldoon, Sergeant Muldoon?
Come on, who doesn't love Sergeant Muldoon? One of my favorite memories is we went to a bar after one of the shows with a bunch of the kids, and we were all talking shop. Me and him ordered a pitcher each. They thought we were going to share. Instead, we fucking cheers and did it old school, baby. But I love everything about Sarge, man. He was always great to talk to. I remember one show we did for Richie, and I had to talk Sarge into stopping the ring announcing because he was shit faced. He probably won't let me mention it that one, but I was like, Sarge, you probably had enough to drink.
There's a name that's not on the list that I'm going to bring up. Joseph Bonschmidt, Pete.
I love Pete. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna say flat out, if he's watching, and even if he's not, I'll put it out there anyway. Thank you for all of this, because without him, I wouldn't have been here. I wouldn't have spent the last decade plus living this life and having this great business, which this life hasn't always been a blessing. It definitely caused a lot of strain on my marriage and my kids, wrestling on birthdays and anniversaries and holidays and bringing home envelopes with $1 bills.
Yeah, Blackheart.
But all the money was there. You just complained, hey, next time do you think you're not paying me in ones? So guess what happened after that?
Why, you paid him in coins this time?
No. I got paid in coins recently, and I thought of you, Ronnie, because he would complain that he didn't complain he got paid. He got bitching about the ones.
Yeah. We got paid in coins one time back in the day.
Oh, yes, we did.
All I said was, what's up with all the ones? So then the next, every show after that was all ones.
Well, yeah, because literally it was a rib on ribs.
Yeah. But no, without Pete, I wouldn't be here, and I thank him for this, for the run, and for the good times and the memories, and riding up and down the road with him was like school was in session, even though we weren't in the ring. Mm-hmm. It was beautiful. So,
shout out to Pete if he's watching. I'm sure he'll get around and he'll watch it at some point. Another name on the list. Bo Douglas.
Oh, Bo's great. I love Bo. The thing about Bo, he always sounds like he just got done smoking a pack and a half of cigarettes. And I love him for it, because he's another guy who, damn it, I wish he had gotten a shot in his prime. Mm-hmm. He was a damn good performer.
Yeah.
I mean, body be damned, he was a good performer. He could do this. And, he was always there with a helpful word, but he'd always follow with, well, Ronnie, if you don't want to listen, go fuck yourself, I mean, it's that simple, either you listen or you go fuck yourself.
It's funny.
I always had a blast with both.
It's funny how, not to cut you off, Ronnie. It's funny how people do my voice, the imitation of my voice. But those 3 guys, Bo Douglas, Jason Rumble, and James Allen, Jimmy, they all sound the same. I'm like, what the fuck? They try to make fun of one another. I'm like, what the fuck? I'm like, you guys sound.
How can I make fun of each other?
Yeah, I'm like, one time I was telling Jason Rumble that, he's like, I don't fucking sound like that. What the fuck? I'm like, it's like twins.
Bro,
Blackheart,
real quick, with Rumble,
what's that?
I was doing that I was doing the Skohegan Fair for for cousin Larry
Yeah.
up in Maine. And me and Rumble, we were camped right next to each other for like a week straight. And I'll tell you, like we had our fun, doing the thing, smiz and drinking and whatever. He don't drink much, but the rest of us all did. And we had a match with each other. And I got to tell you, that son of a bitch, he could still go like it was fucking, like he was 20 years old.
Mm-hmm.
He's going a mile a minute. And I'm like, brother, there's 30 people here. Slow the fuck down. But no, it was a fun match. And then one of the last one before COVID that I did was UFO.
Mm-hmm.
And who the fuck did I team with? I forget who I teamed with, but it was against him and Bo. And Rumble blew up like 30 seconds in, and I had no idea at the time.
Yeah.
He had like the flu or something. He was all fucked up, but I had no idea at the time. And like, so I whip him to the corner, and I'm like, watch the line. So I come in with the line, and I fucking blasted him. I didn't realize he leaned into it, and I fucking blasted him real good. And I'm like, yo, you okay? And he's like, Ronnie, I'm fucking blown up, dude. I'm like, all right, I'll take good care. Wait right here. I'll be right back. So I take the referee with me, and all of a sudden, he's starting to move. And I'm like, yo, get your ass back in the corner. If you're blown, you're blown. Stay there. So we moved down the ropes, I tag in my partner, like, I fucking forget who it was. Yeah, whatever. But I tag him in. I'm like, he's blown up. Go ahead, do the thing. Don't you know about 3 minutes later, the son of a bitch hits a Canadian destroyer? I'm like, Rumble, I thought you were blown up. I had one left in me.
All right. So, one last one there. Chris Blackheart from the list.
Who do you? Why don't we do it? Why don't we do 9/11
9/11.
or Chris Anino?
Say that again.
911. Chris Anino. So that means a big fuck.
Fucking piece of shit.
A big.
Hold on. No, hold on. I'm supposed to do a show for this kid. This is like fucking 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago, whatever the fuck it is, in Connecticut, right? This prick, he's like, hey, do you think you can help with the booking, Ronnie? And I'm like, sure. He's like, I want you to book your own match. I said, I win. You give me the book on my own. You give me the pencil on my own match. Yeah, I win. Yeah. But whatever. I was still young. I was still green. I was like, dude, like, are you sure? I don't really want to do this. I don't know half the cast that are on the card. Blah blah blah. I'm like, after a little while, he's like, well, he starts giving me like a little bit of an attitude, then a little bit more, then a little more. I'm like, dude, like, what's the deal, man? Like, are you still having the show? Like, what's going on? When he hits me like, why don't you go fuck yourself? And I was like, yo, who are you talking to like that?
Oh man.
Like, I'll drive the fuck down there and slap you in the middle of the night. I literally ring your doorbell, slap you, and leave. So about 2 hours later, I get a call from Connecticut from an unknown number. So I just fucking, all right, well, voicemail, whatever. It's a detective from the local police department, which was probably him posing as a detective. So I called the number back. They answered, Detective such and such, whatever. Did you make an online threat against Christopher And I was like, I told him I slapped the shit out of him. Why? Well, can you maybe not do that anymore? I really don't want the paperwork of filling out a restraining order for someone who stayed away. I'll tell you, I'm like, what a fucking piece of shit this guy is. So I call Frank the Crank, and I'm like, hey, Frank, you believe this bullshit? And I'm telling him about it, and he goes, you're not going to believe this. He's fucking blowing you up online right now. So he fucking literally starts sending me screenshots of everything Chris Anino's saying. So I sent Chris a message back. Hey, listen to me, you bald fucker. You keep talking shit, the next time I see you, I'm going to put you in a fucking dirt. Then I get a call from the police department again.
So you know what you're doing tomorrow. You're going to get a call from the police department.
Yeah. This is a wrestling angle that we're talking about here for all the softies out there.
You want to tell them the good
news?
He's not. You want to tell them the news?
Yeah, this is all fake news. It's a wrestling angle, just in case. But going back to Blackheart's little shady booking. He had one 911 show up to training on Monday, and I wasn't aware that he was going to be there.
God.
Out of the
So
blue.
did you run the angle?
Out of the blue.
Well, you know, I could have at least showed up and double stomp him again so he could
Listen.
shit his pants.
That's what I was going to say. Did you run the angle or no?
No, hey, I can't tell you everyone who says they're going to show up because half the people don't show up. So it's like we run Christmas up there.
Oh. One of my favorite moments was in Ton. Yeah, you were going over some stuff with one of the greenhorns in the ring, and some kid was on the outside who's I'd never seen him before. I'd never heard of him. I've been around, 10 years. That's not like it's super long, but it's long enough to have a pretty good handle on who's who. And he was correcting you, Richie. And Don looks out, Chris. I don't know where the fuck you were at the time, but he looks out and he goes, "You say one more fucking thing." And I'm going, I remember Matrix was standing next to me and he's like, "Right, let's go have a cigarette." I'm like, "No, I want to watch this." The kid said one more thing. Don jumped out of the ring. Pop. He's straight barehanded him. Bam. Get him the fuck out of here.
Who was that?
I guess it might have been Taunton, and I think I was going over the finish with Hugo Brito and Kid Crazy. That's what it was.
Yeah, it was something like that.
Well, no,
It
because
was like March anniversary.
no, but who'd you tell to get out?
I have no idea who the hell
Well,
this
no,
guy was.
The reason I'm asking because that's you say the story like it's only happened once.
Well, this
That
particular.
was one time I got to witness it in person, like right there in person.
It's just-
Other than when you slapped the hell out of Ladur in the fucking in the trailer, I had to pull you out of that.
Well, that fucking that idiot, put a hole on my lower back. It just healed not too long ago. I had a hole for like a year in my lower back because of the idiot can't swing a chair. But
He comes back there and he's like, he's talking to me now. The fucking guy don't know how to throw a fucking chair. Ready? Who the fuck turns the chair this way? And I'm like, I don't know, bro. Like, I don't know. Let it go. And he's like, no, fuck that.
well,
Oh,
it
here
pissed
comes.
me off when I saw the hole. Like I already have a hole to take a shit on. I don't need another one above it. It pissed me off when I saw pictures of the hole. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm gonna have to slap Scott just for the stupidity that he can't swing a chair.
What, didn't we watch a videotape and that he brought the chair too far back and he
slipped.
He got caught. On
Yeah, he
the,
got caught on the rope and he
Yeah.
slipped.
Yep.
Sounds like
That's what he
Scott.
said happened. He did say it was an accident. Like he was apologizing as you slapped him like a.
Well, the
Child.
problem is he should have told Richie, "I'm not apologizing. I did it on purpose." And then you probably would have shook his hand after you punched him in the face a couple of times. But
He probably would have been like, no, it looked good.
So speaking of incidents and heat and stuff like that, are there any promoters, any people that you dislike working for, or that try to stiff you for money, or you dislike?
There was a dude up in Canada who tried to stiff me. I had to walk him to the ATM. That was really, I was actually blessed. Like when people said they were going to pay me, for the most part, they paid me. There was a time for Rumble that it was me, Doc, and GA, and we had agreed, I don't know, it was some low-ass number, like $40 a piece or something like that. Mm-hmm. And we had agreed to do the show for him. We went up, had a good show. The house was good, and he handed us 40 total. And was like, the house was light, kid. I don't know what to tell you. And I'm like, the fuck is this? So Bo grabbed me and he's like, Ronnie, hold on. Bo started talking to me. He kind of calmed me down a bit. But it's not like I was going to go fight Jason. You know what I mean? Like, I like Jay. He's a good dude. But that one was about to... there really haven't been that many times I've been stiffed, luckily. I've had guys try to stiff me. There was a show in North Carolina I was supposed to go down and do that looked like it was going to be this big, impressive show. And for some reason, I don't know, Spidey sense or whatever, I was like, hey, man, that's something not to feel right. So I asked for a deposit, never got the deposit, so I never got on that plane. Mm-hmm. Turns out the whole thing went south. Like, people were showing up at that promoter's house and shit, trying to fucking start trouble. I was like, I'm not a part of that, man.
This sounds like a Rocky Raymond, Mike Sparta story.
That's every time I hear about that Rocky Raymond show, it fucking reminds me of that same thing where I was like, I was at least, I don't know, the intuition, it just didn't feel right. Not getting the deposit, I'm not going.
We've made amends with Rocky since then, so, you know, he actually called me. If you're watching, Rocky, I will get to you. I haven't forgot. I will give you a call back. Chris, on the other hand, he's just been ignoring you. But speaking of that, we can't ignore the cheap plugs and the upcoming dates. We're heading to September. We're heading to the fall. And on September 8th, we're back in Woonsocket, Rhode Island, 126 Main Street, Showcase Pro Wrestling Arena, 7:47 p.m. bell time. On September 15th, we are back home. Taunton BFW Hall. That's Friday night, so it's a 7:47 p.m.
That's
bell
correct.
time. You don't want to miss those dates coming up. There's more dates added on the webpage, showcaseprowrestling.com. For all the information, you could go there. You could follow us on all our social media, SP Wrestling on Instagram, YouTube, and everything else. Even TikTok, you haven't been active. You haven't been dancing. You haven't been doing the special dances and all that stuff.
No, we're going to put up some videos. Ironically, on that TikTok account, I gave to about 5 or 6 guys on the roster.
Yeah.
For open access. And like everything else, if you're not behind them producing it, they don't do it.
I'm not going to post this shit on the other
Nope.
hand.
Except Sprat. Sprat does actually post pretty good stuff. But Ronnie, why don't we this is your time. That if you want to thank anyone, do you want to do any PSAs to give out information for anybody? Because unfortunately we know you're not alone.
Yeah, I mean, you can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, S.O.G Ribs. As far as thank you goes, I'd like to thank both of you for having me, for first off, and for Chris, you know, having me all these years. Vega, thank you, man. You know what you've done for me.
Yeah, thank you, man. Thanks for coming on, and thanks for always, you know, accepting our invite and the years you put in doing the shows and working for us.
Well, and like they say never. It might be a while, but hell, Gary Gold was still going at what age?
Oh, Gary, I think is he approaching 100 now? Or? Love you, Gary. He looks like Abe Lincoln still. Have you seen Gary?
Actually, I just got a text from Gary the other day.
Is he missing in action or?
No, Gary's still alive. He's doing pretty well. He's actually studying to be a director of the funeral home instead of just laying down the coffin all day.
Okay, all right.
So which is good. But Ronnie, we do thank you for literally from the time that you in the military. We thank you for the sacrifice for yourself, for your family. You know, being on the roster, good days, bad days. You know, I always see you as one of our guys. There's always an open door. Like literally. The phone's always here. I know we've had conversations in the past. That number is always good. You know, no matter what time it is, you're not alone. Like I said, we're here. You know, people don't realize this. Wrestling, they say, is a family. But like everything else, you don't know how close the family is or who your family is until you need a call on them. So don't ever be afraid. Spread that out. Unfortunately, going into... But I was thinking October is going to be Suicide Prevention Month. We're going to touch on that a little bit later down the episodes. But, Ronnie, with that being said, again, thank you again. Everybody thanks you for being you and literally being a stand-up man and going out there and admitting the good, the bad, and the indifference, which a lot of people don't. So,
Hey, man, that's what the show's about, right? I'm not going to, like I said, I wouldn't dodge anything, and everything was open. So, I mean, if I missed anything, have somebody hit me up. If they want to know more, have them hit me up. But it's not something I obviously the military stuff, I won't go into, you know, super great detail about anything because that's scary. As far as the wrestling stuff goes, hey, man, you know, if I had a bad match with someone, sorry. If I had a great match with someone, all right, awesome. I just hope that at some point I entertained at least someone. That's it.
Yeah, that's all we can ask for. You know, going out there and performing in front of the fans and in front of the people. You know, Ronnie, it's been a blast. We'll do this again. You know, thank you for coming on the Showcase Pod. Thank you for your service. Thank you for the years you put in the wrestling business, especially for Showcase. You know, we appreciate you, and we'll definitely do it again.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate you guys.
Well, with that being said, Chris Blackheart, like always, you don't have anything?
We can wrap it up.
We can wrap it up in a good way?
I hope so.
Okay, so for Don Vega and the boss Chris Blackheart and the S.O.G. Ronnie Ribs, this has been the Showcase Pod. We'll catch you down the road.
To go off. Yeah, no, it was good. It was good.
Come back and do some stories, some bullshit stories or some shit in one of the episodes. We'll come back and do it again. Have some.